So presently we are learning this series of computer networks, and the topic which we have covered in a previous lecture was about the transport layer, which is actually the fourth layer from the bottom, if we can see. Now today we are going to focus on the layer about the transport layer, which is the session layer. So, when we talk about session layer, it is actually the fifth layer of OSI, Open System Interconnection model, and as the name indicates, session actually it helps in managing and controlling various dialogues, or we can say various sessions between computers. So, basically what does it do? It if we can look in a nutshell, it establishes, coordinates, terminates the communication between the applications on different devices, and by this actually it ensures the smooth and organized data exchange. Now, being the fifth layer, this actually sits between the transport and the presentation layer in the OSI model, where transport is the fourth layer from the bottom and presentation is the sixth layer from the bottom, or second from the top also we can say that. So, session layer is the kind of layer between the transport and the presentation layers. Now, transport layer we we have seen that the transport layer consists of short lived bursts of data, typically in packets, or we can say more specifically in in terms of datagrams or segments. But this transport layer is not concerned if the computers are already in communication or not, whether they need to establish a session, or a session is already going on between the two computers which which are requiring to communicate with each other. Basically, your transport layer simply sends the packets, or the data back and forth. Your session layer organizes the start and the stop traffic kind of thing into an overall session between the two endpoints with a specific start and endpoints, we can say. So, basically your session layer is someone which is going to give the coherent data it collected to the presentation layer, because it is the duty of the bottom layer to provide the service to the layer on top of it. Presentation layer is the sixth layer from bottom, or it is this it is the layer which is available on the top of the session layer. So, the session layer gives the coherent data whatever it have it has collected to the presentation layer. Just to have an idea about the positioning of this session layer within the OSI model, here is a figure which is being shown on the screen. So, here you have the topmost layer, the application layer, then comes the presentation layer, and then comes the session layer, which is, if we can see from the bottom, it is the fifth layer, and it is on top of like transport layer. Followed by transport layer we have network, data link and physical layers on the downside. So, till this point we have seen all the details about the physical layer, data link layer, network layer and transport layer as well, and hence we are covering this session layer today. Moving further, as we have seen this positioning, we also need to look into what is the how this working of the session layer is being accomplished. What is its specific role in this whole we can say data communication process, and also what are the main functions which are being performed by the session layer. So, coming on to the role of the session layer. So, this session layer ensures that whichever two communicating devices are there, they can establish a meaningful dialogue, exchange the data in an organized manner, and then properly close the session when the communication is complete. So, you we can say establishing the session, maintaining the session in an organized manner, and then giving it a proper giving a proper close or giving a proper exit to the session whenever the communication is complete is actually the basic role of session layer. And or we can say it provides the different mechanisms which are there for session setup, then management of session, and then finally termination of sessions. It also ensures that the communication remains synchronized and reliable even during long or complex data transfer. Also, it handles the dialogue control, deciding whose turn is to send or receive the data. And for kind of we can say handling the dialogue control, it can use various protocols which are already kind of established or available. Now, if we talk about, we have seen that in OSI model, ISO OSI model, this is the fifth layer from the bottom and the third layer from the top. But if we talk about the networks, which are more kind of based on the TCP IP, or we can say in modern TCP IP networks, some of the functions of the session which are kind of dialog control we have just seen, and also the session release are handled at the transport layer or application layer, reducing the session layer's independent role. So, in some of the modern TCP IP networks, you may find that the session layer is kind of having a reduced role, because most of its functionalities or some of its functionalities like session release and dialog controls are being maintained at the either the transport layer by TCP, or the layer which is on top of everyone, which is the application layer. So, that can also happen. Now, role of the session layer is to provide mechanism for session setup, management and termination, and also to ensure synchronized reliable communication, even if the data transfer sessions are quite long or something of that sort. Now, in order to complete this role, whatever functions are required, those functions are being performed by the session layer. So, let us look at the key functions of the session layer. So, as we have seen in the role, that session establishment is definitely required. So, session establishment is one of the key functions of the session layer. In this session establishment function, the session layer initiates and also negotiates about the parameters of communications, which are we can say the mode of communication, whether it is going to be a duplex mode or something else, and whatever the authentication factors are there. So, all these including parameters are negotiated and definitely initiated after having that negotiation kind of we can say closed by common consensus of the two machines or of the protocol. So, initiation and negotiation of communication parameters is the session establishment, which is the first key function of the session layer. Now, it also keeps the data streams in order using checkpoints. We will be seeing some more detail about it using a figure. So, basically as I have told you that the data it need to handle the dialog control, and it also need to send the synchronized and reliable data, even the data transfer is long or complex. So, that means the whole data stream which is going from one end to another should be kind of kept in order, and this is done using various checkpoints. Then apart from this session management and communication synchronization, the session layers needs to control who is going to send the data, whose data transfer turn it is, for prevention of collision and avoiding the duplication. This whole activity or this whole functionality is covered under the activity and dialog management. So, activity and dialog management is also something which is to be kind of done by the session layer. Then if some kind of failures occur at this particular level, so recovery from failure using synchronization points, which which is titled as resynchronization and recovery. So, this resynchronization and recovery is also a key important key function of your session layer. And finally, the termination of the session, which is nothing but the graceful end of the communication after all data exchange has has we can say completed or happened. So it is the session establishment, synchronization of communication, dialogue management, resynchronization and recovery if the need is there, and finally the session termination. These are the key functions of your session layer. Now with this key functions, if we look into how what is the step by step flow or what is the workflow of this session layer, we need to look into the working of the session layer closely, which says it establish and negotiate session parameters that we have seen. It manages the token in order to control the dialogue management to avoid the collisions. So that means the machine who is having the token is allowed to communicate the data or is allowed to transfer the data. Then it also inserts synchronization checkpoints in order to keep the recovery from failures, followed by ensuring the data integrity by reducing duplication with the help of dialogue management and token management, or even the message loss is to be kind of kept a track of which. So it needs to ensure data integrity by reducing duplication or message loss. And finally the graceful termination of the sessions after confirmation that all the data has been exchanged. Now this is important that before the confirmation that the data has been exchanged, the termination of session will not be a graceful termination, that is going to be an abrupt termination. So here if we can see the working of session layer with the help of an diagram. So here you can kind of find all the key points which are involved in working of the session layer, or we can say kind of whatever are the important functions of the session layer are being kind of listed here. So this goes by connection establishment and authentication for various parameters of authentication and various parameters related to the type of full duplex communication are established or negotiated upon. Then there is kind of an data exchange and token management. Data exchange is going to take place with the help of token management. Then there are synchronization checkpoints which are there to ensure that the data is being sent in order. Hence this orderly communication reduces message losses, reduces duplication and reduces errors also. And finally the termination of the connection with the graceful session closure. So this is basically we can say is the working of session layer. We can say this is a complete flow or a step by step nature, step by step working of the session layer. Moving forward, if we talk about you must have observed in case of network layer, also in case of transport layer, that in order to completely understand or in order to completely study a particular layer, we also need to look into the protocols which are operated protocols and the technologies too which are operated on that particular layer. So this we have seen for the network layer as well as for the transport layer also. On the similar lines, we need to at least look into which all protocols and technologies are being operated at a session layer. So in in this series we have the first technology or protocol we can say is ADSP, which is Apple Talk Data Stream Protocol. It is developed by Apple for LAN communication with self configuration support. The other protocols which are operated on session layer is real time transport control protocol, which is RTCP. This provides quality of service feedback for real time protocol based multimedia sessions. Then there is a point to point tunneling protocol, which is in short known as PPTP. It enables the virtual private network VPNs over TCP IP for two particular sender and receiver pairs. Then because authentication is to be managed at this session layer and other parameters related to it, we have a protocol which is there for authentication of passwords, and that is called as password authentication protocol, which in short is being denoted as PAP. It provides the password based user authentication in point to point connections, PPP connections. Then a remote procedure call is one of the technologies which is being kind of tackled or handled with the help of with a huge help from session layer. So, for this remote procedure call RPC, a protocol is required and known as remote procedure call protocol, which is RPCP. It allows a program to execute a procedure in another space, which is kind of a remote procedure call, and that can happen in a client server interaction. Finally, we have SDP, which is sockets direct protocol, and this supports the socket communication over RDMA enable networks. Now, session layer, if we talk about in the whole communication system or about its important role in the whole communication system, the session layer is very important for internet to function, in particularly in case of internet, because it is going to save bandwidth and processing power. Now, how it is going to save bandwidth and processing power, which we are claiming, we need to look into that. So, for example, there is an kind of an encrypted communication between the two endpoints. So, in a typical scenario, if you look into this encrypted communication, this takes a lot of processing power at a startup to create and send these kind of secret messages. Now, these secret messages or encrypted messages, we can say, if they kind of would need to set up the process each time a data packet is sent, there is going to be a considerable loss of bandwidth as well as the processing power. Now, here comes the role of the session layer, which I was saying is very important, because your session layer is maintaining the single sessions between the endpoints and the same messages can be used for, or same parameters can be used for some time. If there was no long lived session, they would need to do the same expensive startup process each time they wanted to send a packet of data, which would be slow and take a lot of processing power to do. So, for every kind of dialogue, if the startup and then release phase of the connection is to be repeated every time, this is going to be an expensive mechanism. So, basically your session layer establishes and controls the whole kind of, we can say, the session or the dialogue, and hence whatever messages are there will be exchanged within one particular dialogue, because your session is actually long lived. With the absence of these long lived session, there will be a need of an startup process each time a packet is to be sent, and that startup process is pretty expensive, and hence because of this the machine or the communication whole would be very slow and take a lot of processing power to do so. Similarly, if we talk about the authentication, so authentication also happens at the start of a session, then all the communication within that session could be considered as coming from the same source without needing to re-authenticate the source or the machine for every data packet which is being sent. So, authentication also goes with kind of session, we can say, and it happens at the start of a session, and again the session layer is going to kind of maintain all this. And session layer contains checkpoints also in the data to be transmitted, and this kind of checkpoints containment we have also seen in the figure, or we have also seen that in the functions of the session layer. if the sent data were to be lost or corrupted during the transmission, only the newest data since the last checkpoint would need to be transmitted, not the whole kind of we can say data. In this way, these checkpoints which are maintained by session layer are going to save the power or bandwidth, or we can say this saves on total amount of data transmission. It also insulates the higher level systems from being aware of the low level data transmission problem. So, a kind of we can say a layer of abstraction is also provided. So, in order to understand this whole process, let us take an analogy of two people at a party. So, once they are going to meet, they would typically say hello to each other at the start of the party. That means the session has been kind of we can say established, initiating a long session between the two of them. The length of the conversation between when they say hello and when they will say goodbye would be just one particular session. The sentences that they are saying back and forth would be kind of transport layer. They could even talk about different topics similar to the application layer, but the session or the dialogue between their hello and goodbye will be considered as one particular session. Now, this single session could even be momentarily interrupted, or we can take this scenario as perhaps one person stops to talk here in order to kind of attend someone else. So, that single session is kind of we can say temporarily interrupted, but again this person goes back to the talking to the original person again and continues the conversation without another hello or without another greeting. And when they say goodbye, it would end the session. Maybe much later they kind of they bump into each other and then they say hello again, starting a new session. So, with this whole analogy of the two people kind of interacting with each other at a party can be kind of can be taken in order to understand the session layer. We have also seen protocols used in the session layer. One concept which is important in case of session layer is marshalling. So, as the session layer is responsible for terminating, initiating and maintaining sessions, and also for ensuring orderly communication. Marshalling or serialization is the process of converting complex data structure into the suitable format for network transmission or storage. It transforms the internal representation of data such as integers, floats, strings and objects into a standardized format that can be understood by both sender and the receiver. So, this is basically kind of it is this process is actually this involves converting complex or converting the data types into binary or text based representation, and that also includes not only the data type, but the information about the data structure also. Now, why this marshalling is required? Marshalling is required in distributed computing and RPCs, which is remote procedure call, enabling communication between different systems or different programming languages. Now, middleware or communication frameworks handle the marshalling and unmarshalling process, abstracting the complexities of data conversion and transmission from the developers. On the receiving end, unmarshalling reconstructs the original data structure from the received marshaled format, ensuring the accurate restoration and seamless communication between various distributed components. Marshalling enables interoperability between different systems. It also abstracts low level details of data representation and transmission, allowing the developers to focus on high level communication logic. So, this actually if we talk about this marshalling, together sessions and marshalling play vital role in establishing the managed structure communication channels and enabling the efficient exchange of data in distributed computing environment. Both are very necessary, and hence when we talk about the sessions, we also talk about the marshalling thing. So, in this lecture we started with the fifth layer from the bottom, which is the session layer in OSI ISO OSI model. We looked into the role of it, and we also kind of seen the key functions of the session layer, but much more is to be covered on this in this session layer, which will be taken up in my upcoming lecture. Here is a list of references which is being used for preparation of this class. I will see you in the next. Till then, take care. Goodbye.